What's going on, everybody? How you doing? This is Brian Mazique, aka Franchise Play, and I am back with the second episode of my Mazique Speaks podcast. That is, of course, what Ask FP has evolved into. We're going to start the show off as usual, and I shouldn't say as usual, it's only the second episode, but we're going to start the show off with Ask FP. And if anybody wants to know how they can participate in Ask FP, I am putting the description. The Twitter handle in the description at Unique Mazique. Send whatever questions you have, hashtag Ask FP, and I'll try to make sure that we get to them on the show. What else do I have to tell you? Last week's show, I was supposed to cut it up. Time kind of got a little bit crunched. I was supposed to cut it up and make it a table and contents. I'm going to try to make sure that I'm able to do that this week for this week's show. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Ask FP right now. All right, let's see what we got here. Our first question. Actually, the amount of questions that I got this particular time was not quite as plentiful, I'd say, as last week's show, but it's all good. You know, we can maybe get to a higher percentage of the stuff that was actually the people, a higher percentage of the questions that were asked. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to start off with Solomon. I do believe we have seen Solomon before on Ask FP. So the first question that Solomon has is, what was your favorite moment of the NBA season so far? My favorite moment of the NBA season so far, man, honestly, if I'm being totally honest, man, I can't say that I've seen a ton of memorable moments yet in the season. Really, I haven't. And especially to narrow it down to just one, I'd say some of the stuff that I've seen with Joel Embiid has been extremely memorable. The rookie season he was having, he hurt himself. It doesn't seem to be too serious, hurt his knee, but he's been, in my opinion, the most memorable guy this season. Obviously, Westbrook's triple doubles have been memorable. The historic 50-point triple double that James Harden had was very memorable. Those are the most memorable moments so far of the season for me. Larry Nance Jr.'s head caressing dunk on David West was pretty memorable too. So can't forget about that one. All right, let's go to the next question. Let's make this big here. All right, our next question comes from Simon Torvey Sunderland, and he says, do you think that Bo Jackson could have become a Hall of Famer in two different sports? I think that's a really good question and a very valid question, because Bo did actually excel in football and baseball. Most definitely he did. But becoming a Hall of Famer, I think the toughest sport for him to become a Hall of Famer would have certainly have been baseball, because Bo was obviously a spectacular athlete, a big-time power hitter, and a stolen base threat. But he struck out a ton. He was at best, you're looking at like a 260, 265 hitter. He would have had to have played for a long time, maintaining that same power to have any chance. And I don't see him as ever being a Hall of Fame baseball player, especially if he was also still playing football, which is kind of the whole criteria of this question. So football, Hall of Famer, yes. Baseball, probably not. But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't have been a good baseball player who had a very solid career, because I think definitely he would have been that. But Hall of Fame in baseball, we see that with the criteria is much tougher in that sport than just about any sport. So I think I'd fall short of calling him a potential Hall of Famer in baseball. All right, the next question comes from Victor Daniel Torres, and he says, quite simply, should the Bulls trade Jimmy Butler? In my opinion, yes. And this is not a swipe at Butler or anything saying like Butler's not a great player or anything like that. He is one of the best two-way players in the NBA. He's a legitimate star right now. But I think that the Bulls are in a situation, man. Well, what is the purpose of continually finishing 41 and 41, 42 and 40, 43 and 39, 44 and 38? That's not a championship team. And at the end of the day, that's got to be the goal. You have to be looking to win a championship. And this team, as it's currently constructed, is not a championship team. Well, some people say, okay, well, get rid of everybody else but Butler, build around Butler. I'm not totally opposed to that, but here's the deal. If you call yourself building around Butler, because he's only 27 years old and he has a relatively a relatively cheap contract considering what we're seeing guys get now, because his contract came with the old collective bargaining agreement, which was a max deal then, but is nowhere near what a max deal is now. So I get that, and that would be my second choice. But my question at that point now is, who else do the Bulls have on their roster right now that they could trade and move for valuable assets? So if you clear everything out and say we're going to build around Butler, where, if you're rebuilding, where build around Butler? How? Like, okay, so this season, the Bulls are right now a playoff team, may make the playoffs. It's a decent chance they'll stay 7th or 8th in the East. So you don't get a great draft pick here at all. You probably don't end up getting that Sacramento Kings pick because it's top 10 protected. So where are the assets going to come from? We don't know whether or not Dwayne Wade is going to opt in or out for his second year of his contract. It's totally his choice. If he opts in, that further stagnates the rebuilding effort because he's going to be there. Rondo won't be back. The Bulls could trade Mirotic, McDermott, Taj. Well, if they don't trade Taj Gibson by Thursday, they can't trade Taj because he's a free agent. So where are you going to get better is what I'm saying. So oftentimes when you're ready to rebuild, you got to get rid of things that are people that are valuable. You got to get rid of valuable players. And I think that that's where they are, man. They have to dump their most valuable player in order to move forward for a rebuild. A trade for Jimmy Butler, if they were to trade Jimmy Butler to the Boston Celtics, they could potentially procure 2 lottery picks, okay, because you get the New Jersey pick. I mean, 2 lottery picks, right? Say, for instance, everything works out and the Kings wind up being the 11th and getting the 11th or 12th pick in the lottery. So now you get that pick too, and you get to keep your own first-round pick. So now the Bulls have 4 first-round picks. This is a possibility if you deal Butler. You get 4 first-round picks, and I would ask for, if I'm the Bulls, I'd ask for Jaylen Brown back as well, and then I would couple Jimmy Butler with Denzel Valentine or with Doug McDermott or with Bobby Porter, somebody else that I can put in the deal, because they're giving 2 number 1 picks, and then Jaylen Brown was a lottery pick last year. That's what I'd ask for if I'm the Bulls. I mean, I'm not going to say well, the deal's not happening unless that happens, but that's what I would go for. So now you got the Bulls having an opportunity to build around 2 lottery picks in a draft that looks pretty solid. You're probably going to get a top 3, top 4 pick with that New Jersey pick. It can't be less than 4 because they're going to have the worst record in the NBA. The team with the worst record in the NBA can't select lower than 4, I believe is the rule. That leaves you where you're probably going to get either Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, Josh Jackson, or Dennis Smith Jr. Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm rebuilding and you give me an opportunity to get one of those 4 guys and have the opportunity to have the number 1 pick and get the best one I get from that group, and then I get another lottery pick that allows me to maybe get Jason Tatum or Harry Giles, or I mean, come on, man. And then you picking later, and then I can get Luke Kennard from Duke later. And I mean, the Bulls have a chance in this draft to get 4 potential, like, regular rotation guys for the next 5 to 6 years if they were to do a trade like that. So to me, when I look at it, the whole thing, yes, you trade Butler, but that's the only type of deal that I would do. And honestly, if it wasn't to Boston, I can't imagine who I'd do that deal with. I used to say Minnesota, because I'd take Zach LaVine and a lottery pick and maybe a throw in. And because I love Zach and he's young enough to even consider for rebuilding, but he tore his ACL. So I'm a little bit dim on that one now. But yes, I would definitely trade Jimmy Butler. All right, so let's go to the next question here. And this one is from Victor Daniel Torres. And Victor Daniel Torres says, should the Knicks fire Phil Jackson? And once again, my answer is yes. Phil Jackson, I think at this point, I think Phil Jackson wants to get fired. I think I said this last week. He's doing crazy stuff. You know, everybody's worked with somebody at some point, right? Where you can tell the person don't care about their job anymore. It's like they are trying to get fired. They're doing stuff that they know is against the code of conduct. They're just wilding out, right? And you're like, bro, you already know you on final warning. You know you can't do that, right, bro? I mean, you know you're gonna get fired, right? Phil Jackson is that's how he's behaving right now. He's like, you know what? This ship is torn up. The ship has a hole in it. The sail is down. I don't care. Turn down. You know, whatever. And that, to me, that's the way he is handling his job right now. When a guy gets to that place, to me, it's better to let him go. And also, if you look at his track record, what really good has Phil Jackson done for the Knicks organization? Kristaps Porzingis was obviously a very solid pick. That guy has all kinds of upside, right? He did help get the Knicks to a place where they had money to spend. But he's not the free agent draw that people thought he would be. You know, every pretty much big time free agent has told him no. Or what are we? I mean, I love Joakim Noah. He's one of my favorite Bulls of all time. But are we really talking about Joakim Noah like he was a big time free agent signing? No. Greg Monroe's not even a big time free agent signing. He told him no. Marc Gasol said no. Kevin Durant wouldn't even meet with the Knicks, but that wasn't so much on Phil Jackson. That was about James Dolan. It's bad. You know, you heard the Usher song, Confessions Part 2. Ain't nothing good. It's all bad. Yeah, that's what's going on with the Knicks. Ain't nothing good. It's all bad. So, and you got to start as high as you can go. And yeah, I would fire Phil Jackson. You got to go, Philly. Philly Flash. You got to get out of here, buddy. All right, so let's go to the next question. And this one comes from Solomon. He says, do you think Dwight Howard can get back to Defensive Player of the Year form in Atlanta? I think it's possible to a degree. I don't know if he can get back to the form where he was back then, because back then he was more athletic because, you know, he was younger and he didn't have as many of the back problems that he has now. But I still think that he is an elite low post defender. He's not necessarily, like, at one time, if you ask head coaches and assistant coaches and people who evaluate teams and players, Dwight Howard was arguably the best big man defending the pick and roll. You know, so basically the big man, you know, usually a big comes over, picks off the point guard or picks off the ball handler's defender, and then this responsibility of the big to stay with the guard for 2-3 steps so that it's not a blow by. Well, Dwight Howard was so athletic and so quick with lateral movement that he was able to basically cut off guards in those situations as well as any big man in the NBA. And then his length and athleticism able to step out and challenge if the point guard or the ball handler decides to take the jump shot. He was great at that. I don't know if he'll ever be able to be on that level again, but I still do think that he is an elite low post defender. He's one of them, in my opinion, one of the most underrated players. I think that was a question in the stream yesterday. People asked me who were one of the most underrated players, and I didn't think of Dwight at the time, but I do think Dwight is really underrated, to be honest. So, all right, our next question comes from Jared Young, and Jared Young says, do you think Robert Whitaker can compete with the top fighters in the middleweight division? Now, Robert Whitaker, for anybody who's not a big MMA fan, is a top level or definitely ranked middleweight in the UFC. I am not a huge Robert Whitaker fan. I'm not. I don't see it. What everybody sees, I just don't see it. I think he is very beatable for elite middleweights. I just don't think he's really faced any. Derek Brunson's not an elite middleweight, in my opinion. I thought he beat Anderson Silva, but he's not an elite middleweight, in my opinion. I think when you start to see Robert Whitaker taking on the Yoel Romeros, taking on the Chris Weidmans, if he's not broken, because I'm a little worried Chris Weidman might be broken. He's taking some beat downs. You know, Luke Rockhold. When I see Robert Whitaker face and beat those level guys, then I can say he can compete. But I just don't see it. I think that defensively he's a little flawed, and I just don't see him as that level of a fighter. So that's my take on Robert Whitaker. All right, let's go to the next question, which is also from Jared Young. And Jared Young asks, how would you change the dunk contest format to make it better and have the best dunking players competing? Well, the format itself, I think it should have like stages, right? I think you should have like a toss stage, because sometimes I see guys who, you got the guys who can't palm the ball. You see guys and they got to toss every single dunk because they can't just run and just palm the ball to slam it. So it's a little bit more difficult for them. But I would love if there was a toss stage where every single dunk had to be done by a toss. Then you had like a freestyle stage where you can do whatever you want. Then you had a, maybe a prop stage where, okay, this is the only stage where you can actually use a prop. So now bring out all of your creativity for this particular one and just do it in that way. And it would kind of jazz it up a little bit, create something for the presentation. I think stuff like that would be great. I think the only way you're going to be able to get top level guys to compete in this particular contest is you got to up the ante from a standpoint of the dough that is being offered. I don't know what the prize is, but I think it's like 50 grand, something. I could be wrong, but what I'm not wrong about is it's not enough money to make a person like LeBron James say he's going to be in a dunk contest. It's not enough money to get a guy like Russell Westbrook to get in the dunk contest. It's not enough for them. And perhaps it's not just about money. Maybe you need to say something like your particular your charity of your choice or whatever fund that you cater to primarily, they also get this as well. It's got to be something that gets to be really big for these big time guys to say, yeah, I'm going to go out here and dunk for exhibition. Because what we've seen is the dunk contest is something that guys think that they outgrow. You do it when you're a young and up and comer, but once you become a true star, then it's like, here's an analogy I always use, right? And there's a couple exceptions to this. Kevin Hart is one of them, but comedians usually do stand-up comedy early in their careers when they're trying to get put on. But once they get the chance where they start doing television shows and movies, they very rarely continue to still do stand-up. Like I said, Kevin Hart is an exception. That's kind of how basketball players treat the dunk contest. When you have a super athlete who has all this upside, you see him in the dunk contest early in their careers. Kobe, Mike, Vince Carter, LeBron's the only one that didn't do it at all, right? But then when they become stars, real level stars, then they're too big for it. So I think something has to come out that pulls them back in and makes it feel like, oh, this is a big deal again. And I don't think we've seen anyone come up with that idea as of yet. All right, the next question also comes from Jared Young, and Jared Young says, who do you think is the best point guard in the upcoming draft? Now, we were just talking about this. As a matter of fact, I think someone asked me this on the stream last night. I think that Dennis Smith Jr., Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz are all outstanding young prospects. I think this is the De'Aaron Fox as well. I think this is the best crop of young point guards that I've seen in the draft, and I can't even remember when, right? But if I had to pick one, it's Lonzo Ball all day. I love his feel for an offense. I love his feel for running an offense. People wondered if he could do it in a half-court setting. I've seen him do that when teams have tried to slow UCLA down. I know people talk about they don't like his jump shot form. Hey, what I like is the fact that it goes in. It goes in. I don't care if you kick it in the basket. If you can do it consistently and you can do it off the dribble or from catch and shoot, it doesn't matter the form to me. He, in my opinion, is Jason Kidd with a deadly jump shot. And Jason Kidd had some decent years shooting the three, but for the most part, that was not the strongest aspect of his game. People talked about whether or not Lonzo Ball was a good enough athlete. I think he's proven time and time again that he has the burst, the hops, the explosiveness to do whatever it is he needs to do. He's a legit 6'5". He's the one. He is the one. I'm telling you, if you got the number one pick and you got any type of voided off a point guard, he's a special player. He's the one, in my opinion. All right. Our next question comes from Ty Bud. And Ty Bud is back. And Ty Bud says that, okay, Ty, sometimes Ty words his questions like he's like literally like sitting here talking with me, not necessarily acknowledging that I got to actually read this. So it may not come off the way he thought it sounded. So I'm going to do the best I can. Trailblazers trade Plumlee to Nuggets. Who won the deal? Please be welcome, Ibaka, to add. Please welcome, plus a big welcome back to. I think that's what that's supposed to say. Plus a big welcome back to the Ask FP series. Okay, so the Trailblazers trade Plumlee to the Nuggets. Who won the deal? I actually think that it's. I mean, I understand the Blazers know that they're not in a position to win right now, but Plumlee's still a young, athletic, long, big, who defends and rebounds, runs the floor, can finish. And I don't know if I would have let him go because he's young enough and athletic and talented enough to be a part of any rebuild that you do. And I don't know when in getting Yusuf Nurkic, I don't know if you got anything back from the Nuggets that really assists you in that way. So in my opinion, it's really clear. I thought the Nuggets won that deal for sure. So that's what I see. All right. The next question comes from Simon Torvey Sunland. And Simon Torvey Sunland says, last week, you talked about your concerns with the Bulls organization. Who would you want as a GM and a new head coach? That is a really good question. It's a really good question because oftentimes fans sit up and they say, hey, you know, I don't want this guy. I don't want that guy. Get this guy out of here. We don't, oh my God, I hate him. You know, this, that, and the third. But then you say, well, okay, well, who do you want? And then everybody's like, I don't know. Get somebody in there that can do something, though. This is bad, you know. So when you start talking about GMs, it's difficult because if a guy is not currently working as a GM, but he had a history in GM, 9 times out of 10, he got fired. You know, so now it's like, you know, what's going on? You know, what happened? Why did he lose his job? I would be very interested to know what is going on with Udoka. Udoka is he's one of the top assistants for the San Antonio Spurs. He's a former Spur. I would really be interested because I am very much a proponent of hiring guys who come from a successful organization, you know, and obviously what organization has been more successful than the Spurs over the last 10 or 15 years. Yeah, it's Ime Udoka. I always forget how to pronounce his first name. He's actually dating Nia Long, so hey, he's got great taste. And he is only 39 years old. He, like I said, he used to play for the Spurs, and I hear what people say about him, and I hear the positive vibes that you get from players that are talking about Udoka. And I think right now in today's NBA, you really need a guy who can relate to today's players. And I think from an age standpoint, I think that Udoka is the type of guy who has learned how to hold people accountable and to be disciplined and how to preserve players from working under Popovich. But also I think that he is young enough And I think that youth and accessibility to today's players is something that is going to actually allow him to still relate to today's players, which I think is a really big deal. I think that's something that we see a lot of teams or a lot of coaches struggling with, especially some of the veteran coaches. So that's my phone going off. This is live podcasting, so you got to, and don't nobody talk about my ringtone. Just stop it. Just don't even do it. Right. All right. So that's that. This question, actually, the next question comes from Victor Daniel Torres, and Victor Daniel Torres asks, will WNBA ever get bigger than certain men's sports like hockey? I'm gonna go pick up my phone and I'm gonna answer that. It's gonna take like 5 seconds. WNBA ever get bigger than certain men's sports like hockey? I'm assuming you're talking about like in the United States, because obviously in Canada, no way. There's no way, right? But in the United States, I don't think so. I don't think so. And people can get mad all they want at this, but fans of basketball love the athleticism of the game. Yeah, we love Curry. We love the three-point shooters. We love all that. But people who love basketball love the fact that you're going to see guys play above the rim sometimes. They love the fact that you're going to see certain things that you're not seeing or have ever seen in the WNBA. You see dunks here and there, but when there's a dunk in the WNBA, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. You're not guaranteed to see a dunk every night in every WNBA game, but you are pretty much just about guaranteed you're going to see at least one or two every single night. Now, I mean, I'm a basketball purist. I know the game, and I obviously know that everything is not about dunking the basketball or playing above the rim. But we're talking about the attraction of casual fans. And casual fans like to see things that they, in their mind, don't believe they could do themselves necessarily. Now, truth be told, they can't do the things that they see in the WNBA, but it doesn't look as difficult. It doesn't look as amazing to them. So now I'm talking about from a perspective of someone who doesn't know these things, which is the casual fan. And because of that, I just don't ever see the WNBA going beyond absolute basketball purists and people who are specifically plugged into women's sports, who are going to basically pay attention to anything that is any sport that females participate in. And that may be a really nasty concept for some people to accept, but I think it's an honest take on how people will consume this sport on a whole. And I think we're pretty much seeing evidence of that with the pretty much what I would call plateaued interest in the WNBA since its inception. So there it is. All right, our next question comes from Weston Flores, and Weston Flores says, did Terrell Owens get robbed of going into the Hall of Fame, and where would you rank him on your top 10 wide receivers? First off, absolutely, he should definitely fill out a police report. He most definitely got robbed. It was ridiculous that he did not get voted into the Hall of Fame. Man, if you ask me who my top 10, where does he rank? He's definitely in my top 5. He's absolutely in my top 5. I mean, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens. I can't think of anybody that I would put ahead of him. I can't. I mean, outside of those two guys that I would definitively say were better than Terrell Owens. I mean, there's been a ton of great receivers over the time. Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, all kinds of really good receivers. Tim Brown, all kinds of really good receivers but I can't say that those guys were more dominant or better than Terrell Owens in his prime. And if you think about it, Terrell Owens had a better than average quarterback for a very small percentage of his career, and he still accomplished what he accomplished. It's insane that wasn't voted in this year, and the voters should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. They should, because it's ridiculous. Weston Flores has the next question, and he says, what matches would you like to see at WrestleMania this year? That's a pretty good question. I don't know, really. I would love to see something with Conor McGregor, but I don't know if that'll ever happen now. I mean, it'll probably happen, but I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. Right now, Conor's chasing the Mayweather payday, and I don't blame him. We got a little bit more on that in a second after the Ask FP segment. But something with Conor McGregor would be really cool. I would love to see John Cena and The Undertaker. That would be pretty cool. But the match is going to be terrible because Undertaker can barely do anything. I don't need to see a Goldberg match. I'm about positive he can't work a full match, and I think I'm going to be 100% positive after Fastlane when he goes against Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, Finn Balor would be awesome, even though I don't think there's any room for that necessarily to come into fruition. I mean, AJ Styles, Bray Wyatt would be, oh my God, that would be amazing. Those are those matches there, but I also think that Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt for the title, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, those are nice. Those are nice matches. So we'll see. I don't think we really know yet. I mean, we know Seth Rollins was supposed to go with Triple H, but we got to see how bad Seth's knee is. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Our next question comes from Weston Flores, and he says, who do you think will, let me pull it up so you guys don't think I'm lying. Ha, 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 ha. He says, who do you think will win the WBC, so World Baseball Classic? If I had to guess right now, and I'll be totally honest with you, I haven't paid as much attention to the rosters this year. When it gets a little bit closer, I probably will. But I'm going to go with the Dominican Republic. I mean, man, that's the safe pick. I'm just being honest. That's the safe pick. Venezuela definitely is going to have a solid squad. Javi Baez, Cubs is probably, I think he's already confirmed. The United States will be okay, but I would have to go with the Dominican Republic. I don't think any other country can produce the conga line of hitters that the Dominican Republic can. I mean, it's going to be insane. And then you look at speed on the base paths as well. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dominicans. The last question from Ask FP this week comes from Jared Young, and he says, how much better does Ibaka make the Raptors? So now this is something that I was going to go into in what I like to call the freestyle area of Mazique Speaks, and this is this Ibaka trade to the Raptors. Man, I think it's pretty clear that the Raptors really won this trade. I mean, they gave the Magic. Here's the thing. No, you can't necessarily say that. Okay, I think it was a good trade for both teams because Ibaka was a free agent at the end of the season. He's not going back to Orlando. He wants to win. Orlando's terrible. He's not going back. So the Raptors are renting him, but they only gave up a late first-round pick and Terrence Ross, who's a decent player, but they can do without him. So, and that late 20s pick or 25th, 26th pick or whatever it turns out to be for the Raptors, the Magic are like, okay, we're going to get something for an expiring player instead of losing them for nothing. So I dig that, and maybe you can pull something out of a hat with that late 20s pick. But adding Ross is probably not going to be that big of a deal. So I think both teams got a little something out of this deal, but I think Ibaka in Toronto makes them very, very, very formidable. They do have to clean up some stuff that's going on right now with their backcourt play. Lowry and DeRozan are not playing their best. So that definitely has to be cleaned up. But Ibaka is a plus defender. The spot up jump shot that he has picked up and learned and honed really helps to round out his game. It makes him like a super version of Horace Grant back in the day, almost, because Horace Grant obviously didn't have the 3-point range, but from 15 foot and in, Horace Grant was a heck of a shooter, and he was always an excellent rebounder defender. So he kind of puts me in the mind of that style game with the 3-point range added on it. So I really like Serge Ibaka with the Toronto Raptors, and I see what the Orlando Magic did by getting something for an expiring deal. All right, now the next thing that I'm going to talk about here is actually, this one's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy. This is bigger than gaming. It's bigger than sports. And I wrote an article about it on Forbes, but this is for anyone who is not aware of this subject. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of background. Madden 17 championship took place. It was the week of or a couple days before the Super Bowl. And everybody knows Eric Wright, aka The Problem. Many people know him as the greatest Madden player of all time, right? He got to the championship game. He played a guy named Chris W. McFarland. And it was a great game to watch. I don't know if anybody got a chance to watch it. If you didn't, you should have. But Chris W. McFarland pulled out a awesome victory over Eric Wright, The Problem, and won the Madden championship, right? So Madden's eSports scene is really trying to pick up some steam. And so they have a whole standings thing going on. And I believe McFarland won like $75,000 for his efforts. And he gained a certain amount of points in the Madden standings. So this keeps him in the mix all throughout the entire Madden eSports season to win the grand prize at the end. Okay. Awesome whole setup. Great. Right. Well, here's what happens. Esports is such a humongous industry at this point. When you win a major tournament, you become somewhat famous. And when you become somewhat famous, what ends up happening is people begin to dig into your past. Okay. And a scan of Chris McFarland's past tweets found tons of racist language. Okay. So Chris McFarland is a white guy. And so there's a lot of nigga this, nigga that, all this, and this is why I'm racist, and I don't like niggas, and all of this stuff, right? And you guys know I generally don't even say stuff, use words like this, right? This guy he has African-American friends, okay? So now the crazy concept around the N-word, right? And I used it here on purpose to kind of transfer the impact, right? But the crazy thing about the whole N-word thing is a lot of people who are not African-American often ask questions. I've even had this question asked to me on Ask FP. It's like, what's the difference when a non-Black person says the N-word as opposed to a Black person? Well, honestly, neither is good. So a Black person calling another Black person that is not good. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the same as a white person saying that, whether or not you're saying it as a quote unquote term of endearment or any other. I shouldn't even just say white person, a Mexican person, whoever, any other Black person, right? Using that word, it's not the same. It's kind of like, I always put it to you like this. It's a derogatory term, no matter how you try to redefine it. You can't redefine a derogatory term and make it mean what you want it to mean. But so if I have a buddy, guy that I know, we're cool, and we just all the time call each other stupid idiots. Like, dude, you're a stupid idiot. Like, you are really stupid. Like, calling somebody stupid is never cool. That's not right? You're not supposed to call people stupid. You're not supposed to call people idiots. But me and him have this relationship. This is how we talk. It is what it is. But it's still not cool, right? Now, but here's the thing. It's still not technically right? Okay. But here's the thing. Here comes a person who doesn't know us, and they call us a stupid idiot. They're not a part of our friend group. They're not a part of our circle, right? They don't know us like that, right? And they're like, you're a stupid idiot. It's gonna feel different, right? And here, I got another scenario for you, right? Say, for instance, there are a group, and I'm not meaning to equate any person's cultural standing with a what I want to say, with a physical impairment or anything like that. But here's another example that may even drive it home even more. Say, for instance, there's a group of people who are physically impaired. Okay, whatever it is, you know, maybe there's a group of people who are all confined to a wheelchair. Talking to each other, they call each other cripples. Talking to each other, they call each other whatever name you might think of to identify, to point out this thing that this thing that is impairing them physically. They say this back and forth to each other all the time. But let someone who is not physically impaired say that same thing to them. It's going to feel different. Calling somebody the N-word is never good. But when you're not black and you say that, it feels different. And it doesn't matter how many friends you have who will allow you to call them that. That still does not give you license to use that word, because especially on Twitter, right? So, because whatever you say on social media, you might as well be saying it to the whole world, because I can't just say I'm just talking to that guy, because everybody can see what you said. Okay. So some people might say, well, it's not your business, he wasn't talking to you. Well, it is my business, because you're saying it on a whole on this wide open public way where everyone can hear or read what you're saying. And this insult that you're giving is not only related to this person you're talking to. You're insulting everybody when you say this. So Chris W. McFarland has been fined $3,000. He wasn't even fined for those words. He was fined for some more offensive tweets he made after winning, because EA Sports couldn't go back in history and fine him for stuff he said years before he was associated with the whole Madden eSports scene. But so he got fined $3,000. He got docked, I think, 1,000 points on the Madden standings. And in the grand scheme of things, that 1,000-point dockage is a big deal, right? But in my personal opinion, and I wrote an article saying this, I don't see how EA Sports can move forward with the potential that this person can be the face of their esports scene. Because every single time this guy wins, obviously he's great at the game. He beat Problem. He got all the way, battled through all of those guys to get there and win. He's good at the game. But can you, as a company, risk having to deal with this narrative, with this headline, with this angle, clouding the attention that the game and the whole esports efforts are supposed to get? Because every time this guy wins, people are going to say, oh, that's the racist guy, or that's the guy that makes the racist comment, or made the racist comments. So this is who EA is thrusting up. And I understand he has to win his way, and it's about his talent, and it's about his skill in the game. It's not about that. But I'm gonna give you another example. Donald Sterling is an owner. Okay, he's an owner. And his racist comments caused him a stake in his ownership. The NBA is run by the owners. It's not run by the commissioner. Okay. It cost him a stake in his ownership in the NBA. W's not an owner. W's a player. So is this thing that he's stigmatized by, or this group that he's allowed himself to fall into, is he worth that? That's my question. Is he worth that for EA? Because this is going to be bad press for as long as he wins. It's going to be. It better be. It better be, because And here's the biggest reason. The guy, to my knowledge, and I haven't checked his Twitter. I had checked his Twitter purposely because when I wrote this piece, I wanted to see the things that he'd been saying. People are trying to hold this guy accountable, and he is being defiant, nasty. That's his whole persona. He's the dude that doesn't care. You know, he's got all these pictures he's posted up with black guys, and which to me is nauseating in itself. Like, let me tell you something. For anybody who doesn't know me, and this might be your first time seeing me, I'm from the hood, okay? I'm from the south side of Chicago, okay? I grew up 10 minutes from where Derrick Rose grew up. Derrick Rose grew up in Inglewood, one of the roughest neighborhoods in Chicago, in the United States, period. So this is not coming from some guy who cannot relate to whatever it is he thinks he can relate to. I probably know it better than you, okay? That said, all of your hood pictures, and you posting up images that look like, hey, look, I like black people too, so don't call me a racist. If I was a racist, would I have all these pictures with black people? That is not even the point, bro. That's not even the point. That's not even the point. I don't care how many knuckleheads you got on your side that let you call them a nigga. I don't care. It ain't gonna never be cool to me. It's not gonna be cool to me. Okay, it's not cool. I wouldn't call any of my white friends any type of white racial slur. I don't care how cool we got. I wouldn't even care if they came to me and told me it was okay. I would never do that because I know for a fact, and I don't want you to get that comfortable with me. You know, and that's just the way that goes. So I think the EA has a real issue with this situation. I know they don't want to, and I totally understand from a business standpoint. I know they don't want to do anything with, you know, that's going to cause negative press for something that, I mean, what they have going on is positive. It's not as good as what NBA 2K has going on with NBA 2K E-League. I mean, but it's just compare that. NBA 2K is announcing an E-League situation, and they got the entire NBA behind them, right? You're going to have actual NBA franchises running esports teams. EA Sports got W in his stupid tweets. Which one do you think is better? I mean, that's the biggest news on the esports scene from both of those two entities in the last week. NBA 2K has E-League. Madden got W in his tweets. E-League, W tweets. Come on. What's good? I mean, the dude hasn't even said he's sorry. He won't apologize. I mean, he's like, his pride is ridiculous. It's not cool. People like, man, you know, stay who you are, dog. Don't let them take you down, man. Stay dummy. Stay dummy is what it is. Stay dummy is what it is. Because it's ridiculous, dog. I mean, he put a tweet out about the people who went through his Twitter. He said, you rifling through, or you reading through 75,000 tweets. I'm reading through $75,000 in cash. Tell me how my ASS tastes. Does that sound like somebody who has any remorse or who has any concept that what they did was wrong? Does that sound like any of that? Isn't that what we always are looking for when somebody runs afoul of some set of rules? You're looking for some sign of remorse. Well, he's so hood. He's so gangster. He don't have no remorse. Well, you should take your remorseless behind out of the esports scene. That's what I think, you know, but that's just me being 100% real. All right, so let's go to the next topic. We're going to get off of that. Mayweather, McGregor. There was a report that came out from the Irish Sun yesterday that terms were agreed upon for those two to fight. McGregor, it came from somewhat of someone in McGregor's camp, not really someone in his camp, but supposedly someone from the Blast Gym, which is where he had trained MMA. They, on their website, they claim to have produced Conor McGregor, and he canceled an engagement at a hotel in Ireland. He flew to Las Vegas to clear up some stuff with the Nevada State Athletic Commission that stemmed from the fracas that he and Nate Diaz got into when he threw a bottle and he had a suspension and a fine. He wasn't going to pay it at first. So he has to settle that, obviously, because Mayweather insists upon fighting in Las Vegas. So in my opinion, that should settle any of the questions about who's the A side in this whole negotiation. Because if McGregor was the A side, the fight would be in Belfast or something. That's where the fight would be. But because Floyd's is the A side, or the fight would be in New York at Madison Square Garden or something, wherever. You know, we know that Conor's fans are going to travel, but wouldn't he want to have it where he wants to have it if he was the A side? He's not the A side, people. The Mayweather haters can hate on, and I mean, I'm not a proponent of Mayweather's personal life or anything like that. You know, I think he does a lot of questionable, crazy type stuff that I would never want my son or anything to be around or to emulate. But the facts are the facts. He's the A side. Okay. Mayweather comes out after that and says there is no agreement. You need to take care of your business with the UFC first. Now, I think there is somewhat of a tentative agreement. Now, I don't have a source to go through for this. This is just me having done this for a while, reading into the information that has been made available. I think there's somewhat of an agreement. It's not concrete. I think it's just a conversation of some sort, but I don't think any type of agreement, hardcore agreement has been made. But I do think there's the framework of it is there. But I think Mayweather coming out that hard and kind of swatting down this whole thing is him saying, hey, nuh-uh, bro, check it out. If there's going to be any announcement that's going to be made, it's going to come from me. It's not going to come from you, because I'm the A side, and that's him kind of, reasserting himself like, hey, wait a minute, hold on, pump your brakes, Conor. When the announcements and everything go off, because I'm going to be the one promoting the fight, because obviously if the UFC is not involved, Dana White won't be promoting anything. I'm going to be the one promoting the fight. I'm going to make the announcement, the official announcement. You can't do it. I think that's what that was about. Do I think they're going to fight? Yes, I do. I think that Conor and his team is probably going to do everything they can to try and make sure that they can do it with the UFC's blessing, so he doesn't have to go into court to fight the UFC for going against them. But I think that he might even explore finding a way to get enough compensation where whatever the UFC sues him for, he's able to take care of that, as well as still have some money left over, which would be probably more than he ever made in any MMA fight or his entire MMA career. So that's that. All right. Next up, we want to talk about, and this is actually the last thing I'm going to talk about. We talk about a lot of MMA today. Georges St-Pierre has agreed upon terms to come back to the UFC for a multi-fight deal. That news was broken by Ariel Helwani from MMA Fighting. His return opponent has not been named, neither has his return date, but a source close to the situation says that they believe it'll happen in the third quarter of this year, which is between July and September, July and September, right? So I think this couldn't happen at a better time for the UFC, to be honest. If you look at all of the top stars in the UFC, look at Conor McGregor. He's chasing Mayweather. You got Ronda Rousey. Nobody knows if she's going to fight again. Brock Lesnar just retired from MMA. Anderson Silva was 42 years old, and he looked horrible again. Not looked horrible, but he lost to Derek Brunson, even though he was given a gift victory. John Jones's future is, I'm pretty sure John Jones will fight this year, but Dana White said a few weeks ago or a couple months ago that he would never trust John Jones to headline another event because of his past issues heading into events. Now, Chris Cyborg is solidifying herself as a big-time draw, but she's got her own doping violations to deal with. What does that mean? The UFC is without a major marquee pay-per-view star for 2017. That ain't good. That's not a good look. It's not a good look. So Georges St-Pierre is a legitimate legend of the sport. He's 35 years old. His return is a big deal. Georges St-Pierre is one of the biggest stars in the entire in all of Canada. I'm talking about big. I'm not just talking about MMA. I'm talking about sports stars. I mean, if you ever take a look at what happens when Georges St-Pierre shows up for a game, an NHL game in Canada, it's real deal loud. Like, man, I mean, he is for real big in Canada. And people in the United States know him. Many people consider him the greatest welterweight of all time. So his coming back is a big deal. Now, is it enough to like totally save the UFC from a horrible year in terms of pay-per-view buys? I don't know about that. They definitely need another star to emerge from somewhere. Pay-per-view kind of a real factor there, and they don't necessarily have that yet. But Georges St-Pierre coming back is definitely not going to hurt. That is all I got for you today on Mazique Speaks. I appreciate you guys watching. As always, God bless. Peace.